right, good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me? All right, thank you. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Turn this up a little bit. 1 second. Can you hear me better now? Yes? Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our program tonight, The Secret Life of Pollinators, Creating a Garden They'll Love. My name is Rachel. I'm an adult services librarian here at the Lake Oswego Public Library, and I have a few announcements before we get started. First, tonight's program is brought to you by the Friends of the Lake Oswego Public Library. The Friends are a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing enhanced support for library projects of community interest. We'd love for you to know more about the Friends and the great programs they support, such as the Summer Library Challenge, music and author events, monthly trivia nights, and the fabulous Lake Oswego Reads program. Please visit the Friends website to learn more about their work, including the boutique used bookstores and how you can join them in supporting the library. Okay, I'm going to turn up the volume one more time. Thank you so much. My mask may also be making it a little harder. Thank you. We'll monitor it. The library now has an assistive listening system that patrons can use to hear better during events that take place on the library's main floor. That system filters the sound to emphasize speakers' voices and transmits it to a receiver that you can wear around your neck. If you are interested in those devices, those are on the back table, and we're happy to help you get those set up. If you're interested in leaving feedback about tonight's program afterwards, we have brief surveys available on that table as well. They're available in regular and large print, and you can also access the survey on your phone using a QR code. We really appreciate your feedback, so please consider taking a moment to share your thoughts with us. Our program this evening is part of our Summer Library Challenge programming series, and the theme this summer is Plant a Seed, Read. If you haven't already signed up for our Summer Library Challenge, it's not too late. The Summer Library Challenge is open to all ages and allows you to win cool prizes by logging your reading. You can also earn additional chances to win by attending programs like this one. I'll have a code to share at the end of the program, which you can enter onto the Summer Library Challenge portal. And now back to tonight's event. We have the privilege to be joined this evening by Leah Puhlman, an Oregon State University Extension Master Gardener who teaches for the award-winning 10-minute university program. She and her husband, Mark, are proud stewards of the Humble Habitat Garden and Platinum Certified Backyard Habitat. This garden is also used as a hands-on teaching experience for students, garden clubs, and to train Master Gardener interns. She's also participated as a citizen scientist for the PNW Bumblebee Atlas and is the unofficial bee wrangler at the Oregon Zoo. Tonight, Leah will demonstrate the potential of pollinator gardens with inspiring before and after photos of transformed spaces. She'll also highlight which flowers are especially attractive to bees and discuss garden management techniques that reduce labor while supporting the presence of more beneficial insects. She'll show that by making thoughtful choices, you can create a welcoming and vibrant garden for pollinators, enriching both your environment and the ecosystems that depend on these vital creatures. Please join me in welcoming Leah.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your attendance. And some of you have seen some of this, but I got a few extra things I've added, so let's see how it goes. There we go. So this is my garden, this is the new pollinator garden, and we are called the Humble Habitat Garden, and I call it a garden designed for creature comforts. So it's not just pollinators. It is snakes, chipmunks, squirrels, bats, salamanders, all the creatures that create a vital and healthy ecosystem. I have several inspirations that really guided how we created this garden. The first one was the Certified Backyard Habitat Program. And I found that just by walking one day, and I saw a sign and I went, well, that's what I want. And so I contacted them, and had somebody come out, assess the garden, tell me what to do, and off we went. There we go. Second two books, Douglas Tallamy. If you haven't read him, you need to. He is life-changing in terms of how we think about gardening and what we can do to improve our world, basically. So these are two. I will have a resources page available on if you go to my website, and that will be, I've got a whole resources page, so you don't have to worry about getting all of this stuff. That will be available there. Okay, so this is where we started. This is the house I bought in 2012, and I can hear you thinking, why? It's pretty gnarly, but it was a really good price, and I felt we could work with it. And so this is what we started in the front yard. This was 2016 about. So this is what it looked like after we had scraped all of the nasties off and started putting things in. This was before I had really gotten involved in backyard habitat, so there are things in here that wouldn't be my choice right now, but it was a beginning. This is what it looked like in 2024. And this is what it looked like a couple of weeks ago. See this tree right here? That planted itself. It's a willow tree. She made such a good decision. It was like, I said, okay, this is really hot area. You get no water. You're right by a telephone line. Are you sure? She said, hold my pollinators. We've got this. So she's about 6 years old. And the wonder about this is a scholar's willow. And she's very columnar and contained. So even though she planted herself right by the electric lines, the way she's growing, she's not going to interfere with them. And she has never been pruned. And look at that gorgeous shape. I mean, what a pretty girl. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit. I've got a lot of slides. I'm going to try and talk fast, and I'll be outside in the lobby or outside if you want to have questions afterward. So we're going to talk why it matters about how we garden, and the pollinators, the ones you know and the ones that might surprise you. Always look for the helpers, Mr. Rogers. Rolling out the welcome mat. What can we do to say, come join me? And then making the neighbors happy, and then getting to love your land again. So why it matters. Of the 4,337 North American and Hawaiian native bees that have been reported, we only know what their status is in terms of extinction of 317. And of that small number that we know about, 42% are secure, and the other 58% are vulnerable to extinction. And the rest, we just don't know about. So if we plan to plant to support them, we can help the ones that are vulnerable, and we can also be helping the ones that we just don't have the information on. Besides bees, over 100,000 invertebrates are considered pollinators. So there's just a lot. People think pollinators, bees, butterflies, and that's where it stops. There's so much more. So when we think, okay, what's a pollinator? It's a bee. That's a yellow stripy thing, right? Well, these are yellow stripy things, and they all look kind of like bumblebees, don't they? So that's a bumblebee. That's a narcissus bulbfly. That's a wool carder bee. We'll talk about him later. And this is a longhorn bee. I want you to take a look at the pollen pants on this longhorn bee. They have very hairy legs. They don't have corbicula like where bumblebees and honeybees store their pollen. They have hairy legs, and so we call them pollen pants. Okay. Here's some more yellow stripy things. We've got a paper wasp. We know that. This is a western hornet fly. Doesn't it look a lot like a paper wasp? This iNaturalist couldn't help me figure out what it was, but it's some kind of wasp. And this is a thick-headed fly. And when I saw this in my garden, I'd never seen anything, and I thought, a red wasp, what's that? Researched iNaturalist, and this is what I found. So, yellow stripy things. These are not so yellow and stripy. This is our heavy metal band. Okay, we have a bicolored striped sweat bee, a small carpenter bee. This is one of the first times I saw bees that were cavity nesting, and they were really the size of ants. They were so tiny, I couldn't believe what it was. This is blue orchard mason bees, one of my lovely ladies. And this is a giant carpenter bee, 1 inch big. I mean, they're big and they go by you. Are you having trouble seeing? You want to just scooch out a little bit? It's fine. I don't think we're going to have a lot of traffic in there. I used to be terrified of those when I was a kid. I thought, oh, that's scary and black and big and it's going to hurt me. They're so sweet. Okay, I'm going to talk about bees. We're going to get those out of the way and then go into some of the more not so well known. Again, this is a small longhorn bee, and you can see her pollen pants there. So, these are all pictures of some of my favorite bees. They're not in these categories, but we have bees come in 3 different kinds of nesting behavior: social, solitary, and parasitic. The social bees exhibit cooperative brood care, so they're all taking care of all of the babies. It's like a little commune. Some have 1 queen, some have more, but they can have many generations throughout the year, and they can be active most of the year. And there's a division of labor. So you go out and get the pollen, you take care of the babies, I'm going to lay the eggs. So pollen gathering for social bees, they usually have a corbicula, a pollen basket, and you can see how thick they are here. This is a male bee. It's got a little bit of widened thigh there, but it doesn't have the corbicula on it. They're also very fuzzy, the bumblebees are, so that helps create pollen transfer. Honeybees, oops, sorry. Yeah, and I'll get more to that. So this is the corbicula, and in the females it's quite wide for both honeybees and bumblebees, and that's where they get pollen, they mix it with saliva and nectar, and that's how they transport it back to their nest. Yes, like that. I'm sorry? Well, no, because they use their mouths and their forearms to do that, and then they pack it like onto their hips. The 2 social bees that we have here are honeybees and bumblebees, and they both do that. Thanks for asking the question. Okay, I don't think it's going to let me do that. Let me see if I can get that up. I had a great slide of honeybees and the tube of them all talking and everything, but you know what a honeybee comb looks like. So with a honeybee hive, they can have 60,000 at the height of the season in one box. The honeybee queen can lay 2,000 eggs per day, and they have a 2 to 5 year lifespan. They live a long time, and there's a multiple generations per year, and they will travel 3 miles to find pollen resource and nectar resource. So they're a lot of them, and they go a long way. Bumblebees, there's only like 400 in a really large hive, and they only lay 50 to 400 eggs in a lifetime, as opposed to the 2,000 a day that a honeybee queen can lay. They will have 1 or more queens in a nest, and they're active from February to November. We have, those nice February days where it kind of warms up and you think, oh, the honeybees will come, the bumblebees will come out. They're hiding underneath the leaves, and they will come out, and it's warm, so they'll get some nectar, and they will nourish themselves and then go back when it gets cold. And they will only travel about half a mile, usually. So they travel, but not nearly as far as a honeybee. There we go. My videos are not playing. I apologize. There we go. So this was at the zoo. And what I do when I'm at the zoo and I'm working in the pollinator house, I will catch a bee, I will put it on ice, and I will get it cold and kind of like in hibernation almost. And then I bring it out and I hold it on my hand so that kids can watch it wake up. And they just kind of slowly wake up and they start grooming themselves. And they're just so gentle and kind. And kids are going, oh, wow, look at that. That's really cool. And then here's a couple, the Nevada bumblebee. My gosh, what a gorgeous find that was. The fuzzy-horned bumblebee is one of my favorites. And then this is the yellow-faced bumblebee that you will see everywhere around here. They're really, really common. But they just love digging in the artichokes. They can. And when we had 2 bumblebee hives at the pollinator house at the zoo, and they had actually made hives in the house, and I'd never seen that before. And so some little boy came up and he said, aren't you afraid of getting stung? And I said, oh, honey, I have been working around these bees forever. I've never been stung. And as I'm pushing my phone in to get a picture of the nest, I got stung. Fortunately, after he left, and I didn't scream or anything, but my first concern was, oh gosh, is this like a honeybee that's going to die if it stings me? It wasn't. I was just so relieved. So anyway, it really wasn't like, ow, it wasn't a big deal. But bumblebee tongues and bumblebees are just fascinating. So you can see the tongue, and look at how hairy that tongue is to gather all the nectar. And then bumblebees come in 2 tongue sizes, both long and short. And the long-tongued bumblebees are really, really good at pollinating things like blueberries and things with deep kind of chalice-shaped blossoms. And they're really good at tomatoes. And one of the reasons they're really good at tomatoes is they do what's called buzz pollinating. So here is a flower. That's a tomato flower. There are others. And they keep their pollen locked inside. And so a bumblebee will come, bite the tip of it off, and then they disconnect their wings and they vibrate really, really fast, and that shoots the pollen out. So when a bumblebee is flying, you'll hear bzzz. And when they're buzz pollinating, you bzzz, and it makes them sound like they're really mad. They're just getting the pollen out. And then this little circle here, that's where some bee has come and stolen the pollen without doing the work. So they go in and they cut little holes in the, nectar. Go in, cut little holes, get out the nectar without doing the work. Look at the beautiful orange pollen on this pollen basket. One of the really fun things is to watch a bumblebee working lupin, because lupin is closed kind of like this. And they're big enough where they can get in and they shove the bottom part, and then they can get into where the pollen and nectar are. So they just work up and then get it. It's really, really fun to watch. Buzz pollinating. So they are used a lot for commercial growers, and they can go in and tell how much pollination has happened by the amount of bruising on the flowers. And so this is a bumblebee buzz pollinating right there. Solitary bees. Now, of all of our native bees, 70% are ground dwellers, 30% are cavity nesters. So this means a single female builds her own nest. She is just like a single mom. She's got to do everything. She's got to build the nest, she's got to provision it, she's got to lay the eggs, and then she has to put the kids each in their own room so that they don't fight. You know, it's just, it's a lot of work. And the solitary bees only live for 4 to 8 weeks at the most. So they come throughout the year, spring, summer, fall, most spring and summer. So they will have one, like the mason bees. They hatch, they come out in about April, and by June they're done. And then something else comes along and does the pollinating. So a couple of months, then they die, 1 generation per year. And they only travel the size of a football field. So it's not 2 to 3 miles like a honeybee. It's not a half a mile. It's a football field size. So if they're in your yard, that's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to stay. They don't travel around. So if you've got them in your yard, consider yourself fortunate. This is, this is a green sweat bee. So pretty. Okay, so the way solitary bees gather pollen is they have scopa, which is the hairs on their belly, and then they're usually, so everything gets hairy. And then like the longhorn bees, some of them have special hair on their legs and stuff where they carry the pollen. But you can see, so a honeybee or a bumblebee will go, they will get the pollen, they'll mix it up with saliva and nectar, and they'll put it on their legs, and then they fly off. So all of that pollen is just kind of closed up. It's not really available. But if you've got all of this going around from flower to flower, think about how much pollination you're getting. So they're really much better at pollinating. Cavity nesting bees, so that's 30%, and they like to nest in sticks. Sometimes we provide commercial nesting material for them. This is my mason bee house. If they don't have what they like and they want to lay an egg, they'll use an electric plug. Not the wisest thing to do, but so, and then holes that beetles have made in rotting logs and stuff. So this is mason bee cocoons, and they're not terribly attractive. They're brown, and they're about the size of maybe a black pea or something, not huge. And then this is what it looks like, and they can choose what sex their eggs are going to be. So in the back of the cavity, they lay females, 2 to 3 for the mason bees, and then the rest are males. So the males come out first. They're ready to go. When the females come, they mate, and then the males die. This is a really good-looking, clean tube. If we don't, as people who manage mason bees, if we invite them into our world and don't take care of them, this is what can happen. Oops, sorry. These are a bunch of bees hatching. I forgot to start playing that. I had a bunch of high school kids out, and I just threw out some cocoons and let them watch them hatch. But if we don't clean them, this is what can happen. And you can see all of the worms and, larvae, pollen mites. This is just ugly. And so there's not going to be any bees there. And if that's not cleaned, that's just making more parasites and ugly pathogens kind of recreating in that space. So if you have a whole bunch of bees all together, and then this is what's happening, you're really making your mason bee decline. Yeah, sure. Because they're easy. They're really easy to take care of. They don't take much, and I find them beautiful, But so people will take them, I'm going to have mason bees, and they put the tubes out, and then they just leave them. And we have had infestation of a fly called the Houdini fly. And that started over in England. It came over here. It got really bad in Seattle. And now it's really bad here in Portland. It wiped out 80% of the mason bees in the UK. And so part of what we can do, the importance of cleaning the bees every year, every fall, is to get rid of the Houdini fly larvae, the beetle larvae, all the nasty things that are eliminating the population. That's a whole nother hour. Yes, Jeff? They are super pollinators, aren't you? Thank you. I paid him to ask that question. Because they are so focused on, you know, she's got to work efficiently. And she's hairy all over. And so, like, if they find an apple tree, they will just go boom, 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 and hit every single flower that they can. And they hit way more flowers within an area than a bumblebee will or a honeybee will. And because they're hairy all over and they don't protect the pollen, that's why they're really good pollinators as well. It can take 7 mason bees can pollinate as many as 300 honeybees. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that they're so popular, because they're super pollinators, and they're easy to care for, and you can make the houses look cute. In my card, you can go to my website, and there's a whole thing on, I've got an hour-long webinar on mason bees and how to take care of them and stuff. So that's kind of fun. So these are the leafcutter bees, and they come in right after the mason bees are done. And I found out about mason leafcutter bees when Gardening Ecology Lab, they were saying, so this is their favorite flower, and this is the Clarkia omoena, farewell to spring. And this is their favorite flower, and they cut the petal, they fly it back to the nest, and then they make their nest. And they wrap their eggs in it, in the petals. So it's really cute. The first year I planted this flower, there they were. And I look, and what's going on with that flower? And it's a little leafcutter bee, just they're fast. And then they fly. This is so cute. And this is what their cocoons look like. So way cuter than mason bees. And so beautiful. But if you go to like Crown Bees and you say, I want to buy some of those, they're not native to here. They are from alfalfa farms in Western Washington. So if you plant the right stuff, they will come. If you plant it, they will come. So don't buy them. Just plant it and make it good, and they'll show up. Okay, ground nesting bees. So the other 70% are ground nesting, and they need access to bare soil. And we have a tendency to put blown bark mulch everywhere, and they can't get to the soil, and so they can't nest. Now, mulch is important if you don't want to weed all the time. So I have, like in my garden, I have a thick layer of arborist wood chips, which is the best mulch. And then around the plants where they are, I'll leave some bare dirt. So it's shaded, so the weeds don't grow as much. And then there's bare dirt for the bees to nest, sorry. This is a squash bee, and they're really smart because they make their nest right underneath the squash plant. So it's like no travel, no commute time. This is ligated furrow bee, and this was just in some really packed bare dirt right by this barn. And look at the activity in that. I mean, they were just going crazy. If you were just walking by 2 weeks later, you wouldn't see any of this because they'd be done. But this is all that's going on, and all of those little holes are all bee nests. Wool carder bees. Okay, so this is a bee I just discovered this spring. I'm going through my pictures. I found out I had one 4 years ago, but I saw it this spring because every time I learn more, it's like, wait a minute, what's that? And I thought it was a bumblebee, but it wasn't flying quite right. It was kind of hovering like a hoverfly, but it wasn't really that either. And so I captured it, I chilled it, I identified it. These are fascinating. So anything with a fuzzy leaf, like a sage or lamb's ears, the females will go and they will just kind of take the fuzz, and then take it back to the nest. And that's what they use to wrap the babies in. The male, however, is just a pain because he stakes out a plant and no one else gets to be there. And so he has these sharp little pointy things on his bum, and he will go in and he will just start knocking the bees off. He can kill other bees, keeping them away from the pollination source, and he's waiting for the females to come. And I found out that they are not native to this area, so he went away to the bee heaven. But they're really fascinating to watch, and I thought, oh, wow, I'd never seen that before. And then going through my pictures, I found the same thing in 2023. So it's like, oh, I had seen it before, I just didn't know. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about on the advertising and stuff is, where do boy bees sleep? I know that's why you were all here, to find that out. Boy bees have slumber parties. They are not allowed in the nest at night, so they need someplace to sleep. So this is a boy bee bunk bed. And if you go out early in the morning, you will find it, particularly, it's really easy to find bumblebees out. It's like, what are they doing? They're sleeping. And this is longhorn bees, and we have a puppy pile of little boy bees. And they love this particular Gaillardia. And every morning I can go out and there's a whole bunch of the little guys there. Oops. I don't have a picture of it, but bumblebees in particular like California poppies because they close up at night. So they will go in there, at evening, the flower will close up, and they've got a little orange sleeping bag. So they're just really fun to watch. Okay, so parasitic bees basically do not collect pollen. They don't care about feeding their babies because they go into another nest, deposit the babies, eat the eggs, eat the larvae, put in their own stuff, and that's how the nest that they're parasitizing will basically supply the food for them. So they don't collect pollen, they just collect nectar. Wasps is our next pollinator we're going to talk about. 99% of the species do not sting. And I want everybody to tell everyone and every kid they're really not bad. But the other 1% are a real pain. I believe that is a elegant grass-carrying wasp, but I am not sure. I'm sorry I did not identify that. It could be a mud dauber as well. So for the 1% that are a pain, you can hang traps and hang them early and hang them away from where you're going to be habitating, having your picnics, all that kind of stuff. People say, oh, I want to trap them, so I'll put them right here by the picnic table. No. Start it out early, and they will go that way, and just try and keep them away from where you're going to be entertaining and spending your time. In the fall, they get really hangry. They can't process food anymore, so they're really, really hungry, and they're just looking for sugar and stuff and some meat, and so they're hungry, but they're not really processing it well, so they just get mad. So just try and keep stuff clean as much as you can. Avoid using floral perfumes, beauty products, that kind of thing. And clean your outdoor space regularly with soap and water because they have really good scent abilities and they'll find it. As you know, if you've had a picnic and everything's fine, and 3 minutes later you're surrounded by wasps, right? They can really smell well. This is a blue mud wasp, blue mud dauber I call them. I love these guys. They feed on nectar, and then the babies eat spiders, so they take the spiders and they take them into the nest, and they paralyze them, and wait until the eggs hatch. And they're an eviction specialist because they will go in to another ground nesting wasp area and say, "Oh, this looks good. Work's been done." And she throws out all of the work that's been done, all of the eggs, and just starts making it her own. So she remodels a little bit, and so she claims that. Boy wasps like slumber parties too. I would kind of freak out a little bit because black wasps, even though I know they're fine, and boy wasps can't sting, there's still a little bit of creep factor in this. This is a Mexican grass-carrying wasp, one of my favorites, because they've come up close and personal to my house. And this is the shingle siding, and she's laid an egg, and she's now taking grass and shoving it into that cavity to protect her nest. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can see them flying by with a little bit of grass on them. I've never seen them carrying a caterpillar yet, but I really would love to. Come on. There we go. This is a Sphex lucae, and I was really excited to see this. I'd never seen one like it before. Digs a single-cell burrow, and then they hunt. They paralyze katydids and crickets, lay their eggs on them, and seal up the cell. But this is kind of a little bit of a rarity in our area, so I was just thrilled to find it in my yard. And what's that? Thank goodness for iNaturalist. Okay, now we're going to talk about flies. I know this looks like a bumblebee, but it's not, and I'm going to give you a really easy way to tell the difference between a fly and a bee and a wasp. If you look right up at the top there, flies have itty-bitty tiny antennae, just little stubby things, and the eyes are huge, and they often meet in the center. Now, they're hard to see sometimes because they fly so fast. They're really fast. But if you catch them and you just kind of take a look at them, if they're on a flower or something, oh yeah, that's a fly. That's how you know. The easiest way for me to know. Here's another way. So the tiny stubby antenna, huge eyes. Look at the color of this guy's eyes. Amazing. And then they have 2 wings instead of 4, but when they're flying, that's really hard to tell. And they have little spindly legs with no pollen collecting ability. This is a forked globe-tail fly. Doesn't it look like a wasp or a bee? It's not. Most of these are from my own garden. So this little guy here, I caught at the zoo before I knew that much about syrphid flies. I learned a lot about syrphid flies, flower flies, because my garden was used as a research garden for an OSU Master student. So I got to learn a lot about them. But I caught this guy at the zoo, and I chilled him, and then waited for him to wake up, and I'm holding in my hand, and I'm going, I think that's a fly. It looks a lot like a hornet. I think don't let the kids know you're scared. So I said, let's just set him down on the bench here and watch him wake up. So after looking at it and knowing what I know now, yes, of course it's a fly. But I was a little hesitant at that time. So this is what syrphid flies like. And these are the flowers that they're really attracted to, the different ones. This thick-legged hoverfly was the first one I discovered. It's not native, but they're around a lot. I identified it because it's got these really thick thighs. I'm going for that. All right. You're wondering about the Skittles, aren't you? Okay. Aphids are like Skittles to flower flies, syrphid flies. I'm going to use that interchangeably because they're very sweet. And flower fly, bees live where they are, where you see them. Flower flies are transient, so they will go through. And if they don't see what they like or smell what they like in your garden, they just keep moving. But if you got aphids, it's like, here's a candy store. And if you squish them, the aphids, just a couple, it releases that sugary scent, and they hone in on that, and they start laying the eggs. I'm sorry? Yes. Particularly the larva. So this is, ladybugs eat aphids, right? So this is the larva of a ladybug. I had a really fun time one year. I was working in my front garden, and I had a whole bunch of lupin with a bunch of aphids on it, and there were some ladybug larvae. And a little girl was walking by. And I said, "You want to see a baby ladybug?" She said, "Oh, yeah." So she and her mom came in, and I showed her that, and I was expecting her to go, "Ugh." She went, "That's so cool." 5 years later, she came to my house, and she was in a Girl Scout troop selling birdhouses, really good birdhouses. And so I was talking to her, and her mom said, "You probably don't remember her, but you showed her a baby ladybug several years ago." And oh, that's really cool. She remembered, So we talked about that for a little bit. So this is a rose leaf in my front yard on Monday. This is it today. You see these guys? That's all syrphid fly larvae. So they hatch, they lay their eggs, they hatch within 2 days, and they start eating. Really handy to have. And they can eat like 400 to 900 aphids before they become adult flies. Really cool. So these are the flowers that they love the most, and not just specific to the hoverfly, but just in general. If you have yarrow, I can guarantee you will see lots and lots of hoverflies, as well as lots of other things. So these are the things that they like. Now this is a thick-headed fly, and I brought this in because it's just interesting. Again, I saw this and I thought, what's this red thing? It's a wasp? No, it's a thick-headed fly. And you can see how it this part curves down. So in the females, what the females do is they will see bumblebees flying around or resting on a flower. They'll land on it, and she uses this like a can opener and separates one of the thoracic sections, deposits her egg, and then flies away. It does not kill the bumblebee. The egg matures, and just when it's about time for the larva to hatch, the bumblebee's ready to die anyway. And so they usually go next to the nest or bury themselves in leaves. So I just thought this was just a bizarre behavior, but fascinating. And one of the things that I really loved in researching this was that if you've got these in your garden, you've got a really healthy ecosystem. That's cool. Moths and butterflies. I was teaching at the end of the Oregon Trail Garden, and we were talking about moths and butterflies. How can you tell the difference? And the kid said, well, moths are uglier, and they fly at night. I beg to differ. They don't all fly at night, by the way. But look at these are just some of our beautiful ones that we have in the Pacific Northwest. But it's hard to appreciate them because most of them do fly at night. Are butterflies good pollinators? Take a look at the structure here. Look at how far off the butterfly legs are compared to the bee. Yes? We're getting there. No, that's fine. Good question. I thought they're going to want to know about that. So they're not great pollinators. What they are great at is caterpillars. And that's just hugely important. So to tell the difference, if you can see the antenna, the moths have either hairy antenna for the males, the females have longer ones, but then the butterflies have the little dealy bobs. I really looked today to find a dealy bob thing that I could wear so you would be amused, but I couldn't. But anyway, so the males have this long hair because it's filled with scent sensors, and they can smell a female moth miles away. It's amazing. And then moths have their wings down like this when they're resting. Butterflies, this beautiful painted lady was in my garden, usually have their wings up when they're resting. I love to get, because this part, the underside of the wing is usually much duller, and I think that's kind of a way to camouflage, you know. But I love getting the pictures when their wings are spread out, but it's just really hard. But I did have this lovely lady come enjoy the crocosmia, and they're so fun. But the sad thing about butterflies is they really only live 1 to 2 weeks in their adult form, which is like, oh. Okay, so I'm concentrating right now on creating more habitat for butterflies and moths. And to do that, most of them are just not really particular about the nectar that they get, but the larval plants where they're going to lay their eggs are hugely important. And so you can have, if you say, okay, I want to have dusky wing, so I need to know I have a white oak if I want that in my yard. So all of these, I have the ones with the caterpillars all in my yard, and then the moths that they attract. There's a website called Butterflies and Moths of North America, or the United States. And you can go drill down to your state and even your county, and it'll say what's native there and what they need. Really, if you really want to up your moth and butterfly game. This is my holy grail. I saw these up in Eastern Washington once. I want some so bad. I have planted honeysuckle, I have snowberries, I have cherries. Someday they're going to come, I hope. So this is a Polyphemus moth. It starts out really, really tiny. And that's what the caterpillars look like when they're young. And then this is what they look like when they get larger. This is like the last instar. And this is what the chrysalis looks like. And it stays all winter long on the tree. A lot of them drop down into leaf litter, but this stays on the tree. And this is what it becomes. 5-inch wingspan. They hatch, they come out of the chrysalis in the afternoon, late afternoon. They find a mate, they mate, and by the next night or the day after, they're gone. This seems like such a lot of work for 1 or 2 days. So, knowing what we know, look at the antenna. Is this a female or a male? Anybody? Look at how fluffy and thick those are. That's a male. Can you see that? Okay. I love that moth. Now, so the important part, other than the minimal pollination that they do, is supporting the food web. And moths in particular, there's a lot more of them than there are butterflies. We just don't see them. So this is a chickadee courtship. I saw this happening in my yard. Sorry for the fuzziness. It was a long ways away. But the male comes and feeds the female. Like, I'm going to take care of you. You can raise my babies. I'll take care of you. And then this is the chickadee parenting. The babies need to be fed once every 3 minutes from 6 to 8 at night. 350 to 570 caterpillars a day for 16 to 18 days, 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to raise one nestful of chickadees. And that's just the chickadees. And so baby birds can only eat soft things. So they need the caterpillars and they need the worms. So if you have a plant in your yard that has holes in the leaves, go, yay, because it's feeding the birds. Okay, real quick now, I'm getting 9 proven tips for a garden. Make your yard, make your yard a no pesticide zone, plant trees, provide floral resources, plant in swaths. We're going to go through all of this. I'm not going to read it all to you. So, pesticides. We only kill ugly bugs. This is not true. So if you want to have pollinators and birds in your yard, don't poison them. Easy thing. And if you say like you poison the aphids, then there's nothing for the hoverflies to eat and to lay their eggs on, or the ladybugs, or the praying mantises. And then we all know how susceptible bees can be to pesticides. So I haven't used pesticides in my yard for 5 years. I have very little problem. I have 0 problem. The aphids you saw, they're being taken care of. No work for me. Okay, trees and shrubs are great things to plant because, number one, you've got a lot of real estate, and often they will provide berries for birds as well as flowers for pollination and nectar. And then they're also useful for forage and nests, and they provide resources. Yes? Talk loud. It's okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah. People plant, and nurseries carry a lot of invasive plants. I have a webinar on the 10-Minute University site called Plant This, Not That. And it basically covers some of the things that are readily available that are planted. My neighbor just planted another 40 feet of cherry laurel, which is highly invasive. Her landscaper bought it. The nurseries carry it, often right next to the native plants. So you really have to check what you're planting. Invasive.org, if any of you are taking notes, is a great place. You can say, this is what I've got. You can identify it by picture, by common name, and it gives you maps of this is where it's listed as invasive and this is where it's a concern. It's a really great website. Okay, provide year-round floral resources. My yard is February through November, sometime a little bit in December. I do plant early blooming heather because it's one of the few things that bloom like in February. But I often see the bumblebees when they've woken up, that's what they're hitting. Portland Nursery has this great thing where you've got this is when they bloom and what color they are. And so you can just plan in your garden for that. Planting in swaths. Pretend you are a mother bee and you need to get all of this pollen for the babies. And it's, oh, there's a plant over there I can use. Oh, there's another one over there. If you've got it all in one big area, it's like going to Costco. You know, it's like everything I need is right here. So if you plant, I plant no less than 3 when I'm planting, often 5 to 7. And then things like the asters will take care of that for the rest of the yard because they'll go everywhere. Shop wisely. Get the right plant in the right place and check for the invasives at invasive.org and buy plants that have not been treated with insecticides. So if it says this plant is protected from problematic aphids, whiteflies, beetles, mealybugs, run away and yell at the nursery manager. No, sorry. But you do have, so it says be safe, neonicotinoid free. Check that. If you don't know, ask. So has this been treated with pesticides? And if they don't know, shop elsewhere. Neonicotinoids can last in the ground for 2 to 3 years. And it's a systemic thing, so it goes up into the leaves and the flowers. And if the caterpillars eat it, it's killing them as well. Nasty stuff. Okay, we have 2 terrific resources here. Portland Plant List, I have a few of the Willamette Valley native plants in the back there. So if you don't have one, take them. Feel free. Really great resources where you can say, this is the plant, this is what it wants. Awesome. Portland Plant List is online. Every once in a while you can find it available for sale at like Backyard Bird Alliance. But it's about this thick and it's really intensive. So choose plants rich in nutrition. Again, this is from the Garden Ecology Lab. One of the places that I really go to for great information. And so this is the number of bees supported on these different plants. And you can see the Douglas aster right there, gold star. Everybody loves that. It blooms late. It's starting to bloom now, just starting to bloom now, and will go through to September. So it really provides a lot of good nutrition for later in the summer. And then again, my little Clarkie is there, farewell to spring. Plant those. They start blooming in May, and they will bloom until the frost hits. And they can get a little leggy, but they're just lovely. I mean, it's just this big mound of pink. Really pretty. 2 of my favorites. When you're planting flowers, take a look at the flower structure. The rows on the right, your left, you can see the stamens. So you can see where the pollen and the nectar is going to be. This rose, another beautiful rose, but the bees can't find, it's not easy to find where the pollen and nectar is. So when you're thinking, I've got this choice, choose plants that are easy for them to reach. Provide water. One year I had just a pan of water out near where my mason bees were, and the males hatched, and they were thirsty. They can't swim, so I lost a lot of them. So if you provide water, just get little rocks and stuff where they can get drinks. Butterflies do not drink water. They get nectar, but they do like to do what's called a butterfly puddler, and I mix clay and chicken manure, fertilizer. And they like the chemicals and stuff that's in that, and that helps them. You can often see them, like in hiking in the mountains, you can see a whole bunch of them on just a muddy spot. And so that's a butterfly puddler, and it's a really good source to provide for your butterflies. Provide nesting sites and materials. We've already talked about that. Logs, go about in a minute. Stems. So if you've got flowers that have like pithy stems, and if you want to leave them until spring, and then cut them down to about 18 inches, and that will provide new places for bees to nest during the summer, but then everything will grow up around it and you won't see it. So that's just a really good way to handle it. Brush piles are also good. So this is a log that I had in my yard. We had to cut down a huge birch tree. This was in about 2 years. This was this year. So all of that rotting wood not only provides nutrients for the ground, but it gives bees, beetles, salamanders, all places. Minimize the lawn. We know this. So this was my yard in 2012. This is it now. And then embrace a more relaxed landscape. I've got 0 minutes. We're going to flip through this really fast. Okay, cues for care. This is the Mary S. Young Pollinator Garden. If you haven't been there, go there. She does a really good job of making pollinator gardens look accessible and lovely to the general public. You can even have very formal pollinator gardens, although this is not going to provide a lot of nesting sites. Gas-powered landscape equipment. What can I say? The noise, the pollution, the environmental hazards, and just think of yourself as a small creature and getting blasted with all of that stuff. Just move to gas-powered. It's way cheaper to maintain and much quieter. Okay, so this is where we started with our pollinator garden. The lawn has got to go. This is what it looked like in 2023. And then my darling husband said, okay, let's tackle this. And he dug up all the lawn by hand and started digging a pathway. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. And then this is what it looked like in July of 2024, 1 year after we planted it. So it's just kind of starting to go on. This is what it looked like the next year. This is with no fertilizer, nothing. Just let the plants do what they want. Again, you've seen this. We went through all those. So, if you want to come see my garden, and I would love to have you come see my garden, it's going to be open at the Backyard Habitat Open Garden, Saturday, September 12th, from 9 to 1. I'll be hanging out till 2. There's my address. This is not on my website, so take a picture of it now or ask a friend. And you can always contact me through my website and through my email. And then there's the thing. And one of the really cool things that this library does is they have a seed bank, and they have native seeds. And one of the great things about native seeds is they're so easy. They are usually not really particular about. Some of them need cold stratification, but like with the poppies, I just throw stuff out. The Clarkia is the same way. The annuals are really easy to get started. So that's it. We do not have time for questions because they have to zip through and get all of this back to library stuff. But I'm going to gather my stuff, and I'll be right outside if anybody wants to talk and ask questions. Okay? Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Leah. That was wonderful. Thank you all again for joining us. I do want to just remind you, if you would like the code for the Summer Library Challenge, that is BUZZ. You can just go to your Summer Library Challenge portal and enter the word BUZZ, and you'll be entered for another chance to win one of our weekly drawings for a bookstore gift card. If you'd like to provide feedback about this event, we have surveys at the table by the fiction desk. We really appreciate your thoughts on these sorts of programs. They help us plan for the future, so please take a moment and share your thoughts with us. And if you have any questions about the seed library, I'm happy to help answer those questions. Any staff here can help you use the seed library, so please let us know. Thank you all so much for coming.